Welcome to episode 76, but technically episode 75 of the SmartB Sports Update. We lost 75's sound, so unfortunately no one got to hear us talk about why Casey Badger should have been dropped.
How are you, John?
Good, man, how are you?
Yeah, take two on EP 75, or are we calling it EP 76?
Well, it's episode 75/76.
Yeah.
We had such a good episode last time, but yeah, unfortunately my sound didn't work, so you sounded like a crazy person.
Talking to myself, not a great weekend if you're a New South Wales State of Origin supporter. Tom Trbojevic and Nathan Cleary going down with injuries. So if you had to pick two players you wouldn't want to get injured as a New South Wales supporter, I reckon it would probably be those two. So, yeah, really horror luck for new coach Michael Maguire, and just a bleak outlook for Blues fans, I would have thought at this point.
It's quite annoying, like all of us named our teams, and then Thursday night message everyone, say, hey, we better change your number 3, because all of us agreed on number 3.
And so now I better email you a new halfback as well after we're done here, which I will do.
Cleary's out for 8 weeks and Trbojevic is out for 6 to 8 weeks. And they were like, Tom Trbojevic might be back for State of Origin 3, but I highly doubt it, to be honest.
And that's the thing with Cleary. I mean, he might just get back before Game 3, but you'd probably want him to have a run in the NRL first before he would play in Game 3. And so then, you sort of... Well, he would just go in completely underdone if he were to just be picked off scratch without a run in the NRL.
It's quite funny because the replacement for Tom Trbojevic from all of us was someone different. So, Gowie changed to Latrell Mitchell, Matt, you changed to Matt Burton, Pearce changed to Bradman Best, but then he messaged me at middle of the night on Saturday night and said, actually, can it be Katoni Staggs? But I'm like, too late, man. Social media friends are already done. And I went with Jack White, and because everybody had Tom Trbojevic at number 3. It was like basically we all agreed on 2 spots. It'll come up. You'll see it all later. But one of them was Tom Trbojevic. Obviously, the other one was Nathan Cleary. So everybody had...
so there you go.
The only 2 spots that all 4 of us agreed on are the 2 spots that went down.
So there you go. So obviously it's the Trbojevic injury we might focus on first here. So obviously that's a huge setback for New South Wales. But it's also obviously a setback for Manly as well. Now, Trbojevic won the Dally M medal in 2021. Manly made the top 4 and the prelim final. He played 18 games in that season. But since then, in 2022, he only played 7 games. Manly finished 11th. In 2023, he only played 11 games and Manly finished 12th. Now he's set for 7 weeks on the sidelines. Manly are 8th at the moment on the table. So now we can expect another slide. He's on $1.15 million a year. And so this becomes an issue for Manly again. They tie up so much of their salary cap in him, but he's just not getting on the field enough.
And it's such an impact on their team when he's not on the field. They're not going, like you said, they're 8th right now, right? So what's that put them at 4 and... How many have they won?
I'll just check that.
5 and 4 or something like that it'd be. Yeah, 5 and 4. 1 draw. They had that draw. That draw could come back to bite them like it did last year. So they're still not going the best, even with him having been on the field for the past 10 weeks. And then to lose him, I can't imagine where they're going to go from here.
Suffered hamstring injuries in 2019, 2020, 2021 and last year's pre-season. Also suffered a season-ending pec injury during Origin last year. So, obviously we know the class of this player. And as I said, the last time he played a good chunk of the season, he won the Dally M medal and his team finished in the top 4, made the prelim finals. But at some point, do Manly have to sit down and maybe have a hard conversation here and go, well, And again, this is not his fault that he keeps getting injured. It's very frustrating. It's completely, obviously, it's completely beyond his control. And obviously we know the class of this player. He's on his day, when he's fit, he's one of, if not the best player in the competition. But at some stage, do Manly have to sit down and go, well, we're tying up $1.15 million of our salary cap in a player who is just not on the field enough?
I just think with Manly they never do. They've had these problems since Des Hasler's first reign. It's just part of the Manly culture of tying all your money up in the salary cap in just a few players, and then if you lose them, well, you've got that excuse. Well, our number one best player is out, and that ruined us. And they'll always have these. They always have these things where it's like, oh, if any team loses their number one player, they're always gonna struggle.
But it's just happening so regularly with him.
Yeah, but that's they do it. They've been doing it for years, and I just think it's so ingrained in their culture they won't make any change. They continue with that excuse.
I suspect they're not going to make the hard call here. I'm with you on that. He's contracted until the end of 2026. So you're sort of looking at it and going, well, they're just going to continue this pattern until the end of 2026 when his contract runs out. He's 27 years of age. That's the thing, as he's getting to his late 20s now. He's getting closer and closer to 30. I mean, it's not as if his body's going to improve as he approaches 30 here. So this is a real issue, and I know there's layers to this, of course, with his brother contracted to the club as well.
Brothers.
Him and his brother are favourite sons of this club. And for them to... I know it's a huge call to say... Should Manly be looking to offload Tom Trbojevic to another buyer? What I would say, though, is there would be clubs who would pay the full amount, who would roll the dice and would take the risk. So if they made the bold call to move him on, and it would be a bold one, they would find a buyer who would pick up all the freight there.
I think more likely they could reduce. They can offer him less. But again, Manly won't.
That's the thing. He's contracted till the end of 2026. Yeah, so that's the best part of 3 years to go.
29. He'll be 29 years old. And what's more likely is maybe they'll pay him less for the last contract he has or whatever. But yeah, they just won't. That's not how Manly rolls. They don't let go of their favourite sons, and they don't underpay or pay. They wrap up lots of money in a very small number of players. And if they through the luck of the gods, all of their players stay on the field, they come fourth, or they come in the top fourth. And if it's unlucky for them for a year, they miss the 8. And that's just how they roll. That's just Manly to a T.
And that's the thing. I mean, as great as he is, Tom Trbojevic, he hasn't taken Manly to a premiership yet.
Yeah.
So
they haven't won for a while, right? Since
2011 was their last premiership. So that's his 6th hamstring injury in the past 6 seasons.
They need to do some knees over toes or something, bro. Fix those hamstring injuries on him. I know there's a lot of radical stuff you can do, but individualized strength and conditioning to strengthen the muscles around his hamstrings, there's obviously better. They obviously hire experts for this exact thing, but that's the kind of thing they need to do. He's got a history of hamstring issues. Find out what is the underlying cause of his hamstring issues and fix it. Keep him on the field, and then he can win a Dally M and they can go to the top 4. But every year it's just the same thing. But as I keep saying, Manly won't make any changes. They'll stick with the same thing. That's just how Manly rolls. That's their culture. That's the way they manage their cap. That's the way they manage their players. They just accept the fact that, this year we had a whole bunch of injuries, so therefore we just missed the 8. That's it. Too bad. Anthony Seibold's the coach there, yeah?
Yeah.
And so they'll just cycle out the coach, bring in another one, and he'll have to live with the same kind of thing and hope for the luck of the draw that all of the players stay on the field.
And you mentioned Anthony Seibold. I mean, you just feel like this is going to bring the pressure on him. He finished 12th last year in his first season at the club. They're 8th at the moment, and losing Trbojevic for this amount of time, we'd have to say right now, if you're trying to predict it, you'd have to think Manly are not going to make the 8 this year now. Without Tom Trbojevic, I don't think that they will. And for most coaches, especially someone like Anthony Seibold, who I'd argue is an unproven coach, 2 straight years outside the top 8, well, that's curtains for your first grade coaching career. So this is real danger signs for Anthony Seibold now. We talk about Tom Trbojevic, this is the impact that his absence has on his team. It can end coaching careers, him being out for long periods, because his team doesn't win games without him, and that brings real heat on the coach.
Yeah, I can't see what's his name, Anthony Seibold, getting another job if.
This is his. I mean, it didn't. To be honest, I was even surprised after the way he left the Broncos. It was such a messy departure. Didn't even make it 2 seasons into a 5-year deal, and now. This start at Manly, a poor first season, and now what looks like is going to be another missing of the top 8 this season. Yeah, there's no way he's getting another first grade coaching job the way it's heading. It's looking like he's going to bomb out here at Manly.
Yeah, and he'll just be the. I found out yesterday that Justin,
assistant somewhere.
Yeah, Justin Holbrook's the assistant at the Roosters. I didn't know that. That's the kind of path it goes. They just these kind of guys become forever assistants, never coaches again. That's basically it for Manly. Like, you'd have to see. They're saying 6 to 8 weeks. If he misses 6 weeks, comes back and has a blinder for the rest of the year, Anthony Seibold's job is safe. Manly can make the 8 and so on and so forth. If he misses 8 weeks, it's going to be a much harder. That's just that extra 2 weeks at this point in the season going to be much harder for them to return from. They'll have to go on a 10-game winning streak at the back end of the season to make the 8. They'll have to be the Knights.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you have to call it this far out, I'd say overwhelmingly that it's overwhelmingly likely that they're going to miss the top 8 now as a result of his absence. And Nathan Cleary, I mean, he'll spend at least 8 weeks on the sidelines as well. Came off on Friday night against the Bulldogs feeling a sharp pain in his hamstring. It's the 3rd time he's injured the same hamstring in about a year.
Yeah, so he injured the other hamstring last year, and this year he injured a new hamstring, and this is the 3rd time. So that kind of says to me he's coming back too early every time and re-injuring an injury. They're sitting high on the ladder. They can afford the luxury of actually letting him recover. I don't know why they keep bringing him back so often.
And they've shown that they can win games without him as well. They beat the Bulldogs the other night without him on the field for half the game. They beat the Roosters earlier in the year without him as well. So they're in a different situation to Manly, I believe. They can, as great a player as Nathan Cleary is, Penrith can cover his absence. But what will be concerning for Penrith is that the recurrence of the injury. So
that's what they seem to just keep bringing him back too early. He's going to miss all of Origin, which throws the halves into disarray. Mitchell Moses is supposedly back this week.
Yes.
It was already hard enough to pick a 6 for New South Wales. Now it's going to be even harder to pick a number 7 and a bench utility. Like, I feel sorry for Mike Maguire. Yeah. But on the flip side, Queensland are screwed in the forwards. They're without Tino, Tom Flegler. There's a few others that their forwards are out, like with season-ending injuries and stuff like that. So it's going to come down to that. Like, Queensland's going to pick their second-ring forward pack and their superstar back line. New South Wales is going to pick their second-string back line and their superstar forward pack, and hopefully we can win it in the forwards.
In terms of Cleary, I mean, the Panthers are even exploring options abroad for treatment and could send him as far as Qatar for treatment on this hamstring.
That's bizarre.
So they're pulling out all stops to get him right. Look, I think Penrith can certainly get by without Nathan Cleary. I don't think they can win the comp without him, though.
No, definitely not.
So they need to spend this period while he's on the sidelines of getting that injury right and making sure there's no recurrence later in the year. Because the last thing they'd want is him to come back and do it again and be missing for the end of the year. And if that happens, well, then I think we're finally going to get a scenario where someone other than the Penrith Panthers will be winning the premiership this year.
Maybe the
Which sounds out there, doesn't it?
Well, definitely won't we be the Warriors. They're going terrible. Meanwhile, in the Manly game,
Yes.
Tom Trbojevic appealed a knock-on. He insisted on a captain's challenge for a knock-on. Knocked the ball on clear in the play the ball. Clearly knocked it on in the play the ball. Then appealed the decision, which enabled the bunker to look at the fact that, I can't remember which player it was, one of the Dolphins players brushed one of Tom Trbojevic's eyelashes and gave away a penalty.
Yeah, it was Jesse Bromwich.
Yeah. Brushed Tom Trbojevic's eyelash.
Yeah, that was just extraordinary, wasn't it? And Paul Vautin in commentary said he felt like the NRL is finished after that was given a penalty. He went into a massive rant on that one, Fatty.
Yeah, well, James Graham went crazy as
furious.
well. They kept playing his thing on the yesterday on the Sunday Footy show on Triple M. Kept playing his commentary about it because it was ridiculous. And I think James Graham actually, he said, because Gordon Tallis on the radio yesterday was defending it and saying that's the rule, that's the rule, that's the rule. That's what he kept repeating. And it was that one, and we're going to talk about Harry Grant as well, but like they were going over both of them. That's the rule. Harry Grant wanted the rule. That's the rule. Like James Graham said, you look at every single tackle in the NRL, every single tackle has some contact with the head or neck. And I was at the Roosters Warriors game yesterday. Every single tackle, there is some contact with the upper arm, the bicep. It gets wrapped around the player's head or neck. So every single tackle requires a penalty.
Yeah, well, that's right. It's just that's where the referees need a feel for the game. That's where you can't referee this game completely black and white. You just can't do it. You have to have a level of feel for the game. There has to be an element of discretion because otherwise you just look silly giving penalties for those incidents we just talked about, which were just... I mean, Fatty was right. It was just laughable.
Yeah,
I mean, the contact was so minimal that in a tough, brutal sport like rugby league, you're just going to get the fans offside giving penalties for that.
You know, that one, and the Harry Grant one as well, we can talk about that, in which Harry Grant ran past... Who was it on? Nico Hines? No, the other...
Atkinson.
Yeah, the other. So ran past him, basically. And
Daniel Atkinson, yeah.
Atkinson kicked Harry Grant lightly, like brushing an eyebrow, lightly in Harry Grant's thigh, and then went on with it. Like, that was it. They went on. And then when the ball was collected, it was called a penalty and a sin bin. No one could believe it. No. Harry Grant's expression was ridiculous.
No, it was unbelievable. You looked at Harry Grant's face and he was just completely shocked. Yeah. He was in disbelief that he'd been sin-binned for that.
There was a point yesterday, I'm going to put it up. We're going to put it up on social media for our poll this week. So make sure you tune in, follow Instagram, follow us on @SmartB up on Instagram to participate in our weekly NRL stupidity poll. But there was a late in the game yesterday, Sam Walker kicked the ball and one of the Warriors players ran into his leg and they didn't even blow a penalty. They didn't go back and look at it. The bunker didn't have a look, but it's clear. Like, we actually jumped onto the KO and we're watching it over and over and over again. It's like smashing his leg. Nothing happened, and it was like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't actually bad, but it was much worse than what happened with Harry Grant. And again, it comes down to consistency. This was a bunker call, apparently. So the bunker chimed in. And one of the things Gordon Tallis said yesterday that I agree with is we should actually stop saying the bunker. We should actually talk about the individual in the bunker who made that call. But it's hard to find who everybody is. You can look it up, but it's just not sort of readily made available, that information. It doesn't matter anyway, because it's everybody who's in the bunker. So you can at this point in time say the bunker is the issue, because it's everyone who's in the bunker makes these calls, and every single game you see them. Now, as I say, I was at the Roosters Warriors game yesterday. Casey Badger had a good game, an average game. And when you're at the game, you don't always understand when the bunker intervenes, because it's the commentators on TV that tell you the bunker intervened, actually. That's what I realised yesterday. But there were a couple of late calls that I assume were bunker calls that they were right. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But then, as I said, there was one specific play where Sam Walker kicked the ball and the Warriors player basically smashed into his legs. Nothing happened. They went on with it. Sam Walker didn't complain. No one complained. But I was in the chook pen. Everybody in the chook pen saw it and went, "Why is that not a penalty?" Like that was the thing. Why is it? If the Harry Grant one was a penalty, then sin binning, then this was a send off. You know, Sam Walker just runs off. Doesn't give a crap.
Yeah.
But it comes down to consistency again. Why is the bunker calling down Harry Grant got kicked in the thigh and so therefore Harry Grant has to get sin binned, and not calling down Warriors player smashed Sam Walker's leg, he needs to go to the sin bin? Why?
See, this is the thing, and you've just been through a number of examples where the bunker have made mistakes. And so my question in this scenario again is to people is, well, if there were no bunker, would it really be that much worse? All we do when we come in to these podcasts now is talk about how bad the bunker is, what mistakes the bunker made on the weekend. That's all we talk about. So would it really be that much worse if you completely did away with the bunker? And yes, as I've said a million times, there will be mistakes made if you just leave it to the on-field officials. There will, but at least the flow of the game will not be upset so much. There won't be the stoppages. Yes, we will talk about refereeing blunders, but at least we won't have the interruptions of stoppages that the bunker brings, and the bunker gets so many decisions wrong. So that's what people have to ask themselves is, wouldn't we be better off without the bunker, given how often we're talking about the mistakes made by the bunker? That dominates our conversation. It's all we talk about.
Yeah, I mean, like, you could go through and find every single one of the bunker errors, and the fact that you can do it is ridiculous. It's like I said, Gordon Tallis said we should concentrate on the person in the bunker, but the problem is it's everyone in the bunker. And it was really funny because last podcast that we missed, I talked about how if they're going to have a bunker, it should just be one guy for all of them. And actually, that was Gordon Tallis' solution. Just get one guy, because that will create the consistency. And that's to me, the main issue with the bunker is the fact that they get it wrong so much. And because it's inconsistent. That's why they get it wrong, okay? If every tackle to the head, every touch of the head was a penalty, then we wouldn't have had a problem with the Tom Trbojevic one. Everyone would touch the head a lot less if it was. If every tackle. But the problem is, every touch to the head isn't a penalty. And so why was that one? If every time somebody touched the legs, it was a sin binning, it would be okay. But the problem is it's not. So why was the Harry Grant one a sin binning? And we can go back through all of them, like, you know, Api Coruscant's try. Why is every time that a try except for Api Coruscant's one? Why is that knock-on that wasn't a knock-on not a knock-on when it was a knock-on every other time? And so the consistency, solving the consistency, if they have to have the bunker, which honestly I think, like, I completely agree with you. I always say I completely agree with you. Just scrap it. It's pointless. If they have to have it, at least make it consistent. Because the inconsistency is what drives you crazy. And it's not just inconsistency across games. It's inconsistency in games. You know, like...
I just can't believe how often everybody else has the opposite opinion to what to the decision the bunker makes. Everybody watching, the commentators, the fans, it's unanimous that the observers of the game have the opposite view to the decision made by the bunker. It's extraordinary.
Yeah,
and then you go, what are these? What are the bunker officials doing all week? Are they going through these examples? Are they training these people? Do they know what they're doing? It seems like they really don't, and that's a big concern.
And Graham Menzer will come out today on Monday. It's Monday today. We're recording on Monday. Yeah. He'll come out today and he'll either justify a bunch or admit that they got it wrong. Yeah. And the way he admits they got it wrong is so politician. Like, that guy would make a great prime minister, the way he talks.
And he comes out, as you said, he comes out and does his debrief on a Monday. But if you're these teams that have copped these rough decisions, what do you care after the event if they got it right or wrong? Well, what's the point of this Graham Annesley debrief every Monday? It's such a waste of time exercise.
Well, if you would want his debrief to just be basically walks out and says, "Yep, sweet, we got it all. We got nothing to talk about this week," and go. And then, like, you don't need the debrief. The fact that they need the debrief to justify, like, that's what he does. He either comes out and says, "We got it right," in the most politician-style doublespeak you've ever heard of, Or he says, we got it wrong in the most politician doublespeak you ever heard of. No team cares. It has no effect on the game. It has no effect on the outcome. If he could come out and go, we got it wrong, so we've reversed the decision of the game, then...
Yeah.
But he can't.
That's never going to happen, so what's the point?
Yeah, and they need it. They have it because they get it wrong so often, and that's their solution. When their solution should be to fix the problem. Your solution shouldn't be to justify problems. You know, when you have a problem, your solution isn't to justify the problem. Your solution is to fix the problem. But they don't. Instead, they justify the problem, and we have another round of it next week. The Harry Grant one was everybody understands that you have to protect the kicker's legs. They implemented rules for it. I know Lachlan Ilias is now the classic example of why this rule is in place, because if you watch that footage, that guy accidentally kicked a raised knee, right? I understand, but that motion that they've now decided is illegal or needs to be actually penalised has been happening for years and years and years since they changed the rule that you're not allowed to dive at the legs of the kicker. It's been happening over and over and over and over and over again for years and years and years and years and years. And then we have one outlier of Lachlan Ilias has a broken leg, and we go we got to protect this. But there was never any danger of injury. There was never anything. Harry Grant's wasn't even looking at the Sharks player. He ran past him, and the Sharks player kicked him. And I noticed Sean Johnson, because he had the one a few weeks ago where he full milked it, right? I actually noticed yesterday when I was watching Sean Johnson kick the ball, his kicking action is he actually kicks and then immediately bends the knee. You know, he that's his kicking action. So when he does a punt, his return motion is to bend his knee, point his foot down, and then put it on the ground. Okay, he doesn't swing it out. Except go back a few weeks ago, and he got a penalty off the bunker, and I watched him all day yesterday, 100% of kicks. He bends his knee. A couple of weeks ago, he didn't bend his knee and he kicked the opposing player. He clearly milked it. He took advantage of the rule.
Yeah.
He altered his kicking. I went and watched it yesterday when I got home. He altered his kicking style specifically for that kick to take advantage of the rule. He must have saw the guy coming and went, sweet. Yeah. I'll leave my leg out. And that says to me how little danger Sean Johnson thought he was in.
Yeah.
And you watch it, spins around on the top like a pirouette, falls to the ground. Oh, sweet penalty, up and kicks the two. Now, I love Sean Johnson, but that was ridiculous. And that Harry Grant one is just now the extreme. Absolutely the extreme.
Well, the Harry Grant incident with Atkinson, if that's not given a penalty, nobody bats an eyelid. The Tom Trbojevic with Jesse Bromwich incident, if that's not given a penalty, nobody bats an eyelid. And that's what they need to tell themselves sometimes, these officials. They need to go, if we don't give a penalty here, nobody's gonna be looking twice at that. That's what in a game of such brutality like rugby league is, there has to be a level of discretion with the officials. There has to be, because we can't have these penalties given. It makes the game a laughing stock.
Well, that Sharks Melbourne game was top of the ladder clash. It was decided by a late try, but it was decided by a field goal. And the sin binning of Harry Grant is actually, again, the referees are having an effect on the game. The one thing you want to do as a referee is not exist. You know, nobody should. When you are refereeing any sport, doesn't matter what it is, you should not exist. I was telling somebody yesterday, one of my mates yesterday, right, at one of the recent competitions I refereed. I was on the professional mat, so I was the highest level at the competition, and it was with me and another guy. And halfway through some of the matches, we swapped mats because you cover two mats just to for a bit of entertainment. And the coaches, the people watching, the competitors, they didn't even notice, and that's the way it should be. We were so inconsequential to the outcome that we were able to, in the middle of a match, jump over. He tapped me on the shoulder, and we reverse, and we're on different mats. So inconsequential, nobody even noticed.
Yeah.
And that's the way referees should be. If a referee disappears, no one should notice. They have to call the penalties and the stuff like that. But this Harry Grant one was just the worst. It was absolutely stupid.
And the game's being played in Melbourne in front of, an AFL...
20,000 crowd.
In front of 20,000... in an AFL city and they're giving penalties and sin bins for incidents like that?
No, it's so dumb.
Seriously?
It really ruins the game. And they changed these rules. These rules changes and these calls are not going to bring more people to the game, but they are going to make people leave the game. So there's no real reason to do it.
No.
They're not doing anything except making the game worse.
No. There's no reason to do it because, as I said before, if they don't award those penalties, nobody bats an eyelid.
Yeah.
Nobody. Nobody's going to call them out on that if they don't award those penalties.
Do you think people who don't quite watch rugby league or whatever will go, oh, now that they've changed that rule and, Harry Grant got sin bin, I'm going to start watching it more? No. But people who do watch rugby league will say, now that they changed that rule and Harry Grant got sin bin, I don't want to watch the game anymore.
Yeah. What purpose does it serve giving penalties for those incidents? What purpose does it serve at all sending Harry Grant to the sin bin for an incident like that?
No, it's nonsense.
Seriously.
It's nonsense. It does the opposite effect of what I guess they're intending. My guess when they make these rule changes and stuff like that is to encourage more people to come and play the game and watch the sport. But it doesn't do that because it's so minute to what people outside the game see. It's so minuscule. One bad call in one game over the course of a week will not make people play or watch the game more, but it will make people stop watching. And so that's one of the things they need to think about when they're doing these rules decisions. Like, what effect is it actually going to have on the game? When they're making their decision to reinforce harder this no touching of the legs, what effect is it going to have on the game, and what effect is it going to have on the people who watch the game? Then they can go, but we also need to protect the players. But we do need to protect the players. And they changed the rule to protect the players. We haven't seen injuries to kickers' legs in years, like massive injuries. Like there was a Scott Prince one that was terrible. I know Steve Price did one-on-one on somebody once. James Graham, apparently he did one years ago. But they changed the rule and they fixed it and we don't have it anymore. Can't dive at the kicker's legs. Cool, done. Let's go. Can't touch the kicker's legs because even when you're running into... So there's been a couple this year where people are attempting a charge down. So, but what it really does is it removes the charge down. There was a great charge down by Luke Cleary yesterday in the Roosters game. But I thought oh my God, what if Sean Johnson had have kicked him? That's all I thought about. Lucky he didn't connect with Sean Johnson's leg. That's not what I want. I want to be looking at a meeting and going, what a sick charge down Luke Cleary did. But, it's the NRL, so they'll continue to ruin it.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll keep coming back in here every time we do the podcast and talking about the bunker and the referees.
Over on Saturday, which I didn't get to watch this game, and I was unable to actually even watch watch a replay because KO is so terrible. The Dragons had an average win against the Rabbitohs, and Latrell Mitchell returned and was awful. I watched all Latrell Mitchell's lowlights. He ran. He was awful, man.
He did score 2 tries. He did finish the game with a try assist, had 116 metres, 5 tackle breaks and an offload, but there were some errors
he
in his game.
Still had the least amount of run metres for the entire back line, from 1 to 5. It was 116. The next lowest was 127 with Jack Whiten.
And that's, you want your fullback to have more, should be clearly having more run meters than the other outside backs.
Exactly. So you go over and look at the opposite. Tyrell Sloan also had an average game with hardly any runs. But you go and look at that Warriors and the Roosters games, and James Tedesco was in everything. Charles Nickel-Clockster was in everything. Reece Walsh was in everything for the Broncos the other day. All the good fullbacks are running more. Latrell Mitchell's jogging in the back line on defence, not talking, and trying to bat balls out when he should just ground it. There
were kicks that he didn't clean up. I saw him, he kicked one ball over the dead ball line, just gifting a 7-tackle set to the opposition.
Jack de Bellin's try was because Latrell Mitchell didn't clear the ball. So, and he scored a try in the 77th minute. It's too little too late every time with this guy.
That's the thing. His tries had no bearing on the outcome of the game, but his mistakes did. The mistakes just played into the Dragons' hands very nice.
He gave away a try by not clearing the ball. And it's time for somebody to move him to a different position. Like Ben Hornby.
Well, I mean,
he's not a fullback, and he has his defenders that says they say he's not that type of fullback. What does that even mean? A fullback is a fullback. What type of fullback is he? The type of fullback that doesn't position himself properly on goal line defense, that doesn't clear the ball, that scores pointless. Well, not like every try has a point, but scores tries that don't have any bearing on the effect of the game, outcome of the game. Hardly ever runs the ball. When he actually does get the ball from a kick return, he often passes it to his wingers or centers. Like, what type of fullback is he exactly?
Well, he's just one who's just not putting in 100% effort at the moment, and part of it, you were hoping that after his suspension, maybe that'd give him a chance to reflect on some things, to have a bit of a look at himself, and really question himself, question the level of commitment that he's putting in. But it seemed like we've just got the same old Latrell again. That was the overwhelming feeling watching that game on Saturday night.
We had all the things like, he's sat down with his teammates and told them he's going to do it from now on. He wants to withdraw from the state of origin to work, concentrate on the Rabbitohs, and we saw what it does. He had the only person in the back line that had less runs than him as well, Isaac Tuitupou-Thompson, had 11, but ran 131 metres, more metres than him. So, he's just not playing well enough to be in the spine.
No, and Ben Hornby, I think, wanted him to be the fullback. We mentioned Jai Gray got injured, and that was why it was an easy decision to have Latrell back at fullback. But Ben Hornby wanted him to be fullback even if Jai Gray had been fit, and you really do wonder why he would want that, especially given that performance he dished up on Saturday night. I mean, I know it sounds strange being so critical as someone who scored 2 tries and had a try assist. But there were just multiple sloppy errors in this game.
Look at James Tedesco, 172 metres. It's the thing
Dylan Edwards is getting 250, 300 metres.
The thing with it is his tries are just they're individually brilliant, and there's no team play. If you're not the kind of fullback that is running the ball in support, there's only 2 types of fullback, all right? Ones that are absolutely gun at running in support and, scything through the line like Reece Walsh or even James Tedesco, like supporting. Then the other one is the more playmaker style, Darren Lockyer style. Like, that's the kind of... They're the only 2 kinds. And every fullback needs to be able to do both. But Dylan Edwards is, there was a couple of weeks ago where Dylan Edwards put in a kick for a try, right? That's not the kind of fullback that Dylan Edwards is. He is more the support player, going through the line, getting he's on the back end of the line break assists and stuff like that. And then you have some other... But he also does line break assists and kicks and things like that when he's needed to. You have the other ones that are more... They do the line break assists and things like that, and then they also do the line breaks or do the support play. Latrell Mitchell is neither. He does neither. All that happens is when you get within 20 metres and the game's already put to bed, he might score a try. Individually, brilliantly. He also only kicked 1 from 3 conversions. Is he their best kicker?
It's just... The Rabbitohs, their season is just going from bad to worse.
Yeah, now the Titans have won twice.
1-8, the Rabbitohs. Yeah, the Rabbitohs are the only team to have won 1 game. Every other team's won more than 1 game. So what a horror season it's been for the Rabbitohs. A team that a lot of us thought were going to make the top 8 before a ball was kicked this year. They've just bombed out completely. Yeah. This has been a massive fade out. And we've seen, obviously, since, Jason Demetriou's been sacked, there's been no change there.
Not a thing.
So these problems run a lot deeper than the coach. And we've already seen evidence of that.
Yeah, 100%. They're on the downward slide, and Wayne Bennett's going to come next year and fix it.
Well, he's going to have to. They are just praying that he can turn things around. And, his record suggests that he probably will, that he'll have an impact. But I'll tell you what, the start of next season feels like a long way away for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. They've got a long way to go this season.
10 months.
They've got a long way to go this season, and you just wonder, how much worse is this going to get for them?
Not as bad as they're much worse than the Eels, I guess. The Eels lose again to a Broncos team that was down on troops. I know the Eels didn't have Mitchell Moses, and made it fair because the Broncos didn't have Adam Reynolds. But man, the Eels are just going worse and worse and worse. And I think a lot of it stems from the fact that Mitch Moses is out and Dylan Brown is not a halfback. But they keep persisting with him at halfback. Yeah,
30-14 loss to the Broncos. The Eels have now lost 3 in a row. They're now at 3-6 this season, 13th on the ladder. So this now the pressure's starting to build on Brad Arthur. They finished 10th last year in 2023. I know they made that grand final in 2022. But the general rule, I've said it a few times, the general rule is if you miss the top 8 twice in a row, you're pretty much gone. There are a few exceptions to that. But I don't think Brad Arthur is one of those exceptions.
No, and we've talked about it before with him, what has happened over his 10 years. He's been there for 10, 12 years or something, a long time. What generally happens is when the Eels do have a bad year, they respond the next year, and they had a bad year last year, and they're not responding this year. And they've had some injuries and stuff like that. I think, was it Clint Gutherson was out as well? Yeah, Gutherson was out as well. But, injury excuses only get you so far.
Yeah, he had a stint as interim coach in 2012, but started as full-time coach in 2014. So that's 10 years now as the full-time coach. No premiership, as I say. There was that grand final appearance in 2022, but 10 years for most coaches. A certain Canberra Raiders coach accepted. 10 years without a premiership at a club, that's generally sort of maybe else. Time to move on, I would have thought.
It's nobody else. It's only Ricky Stewart and Brad Arthur. And I think Brad Arthur could get another full-time first-grade coaching job. I think he could.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, absolutely.
He's not the one like Anthony Seabold. Anthony Seabold would be out on the out straight away. He could come back to another one. But I think the Parramatta Eels are surely going to have to be done and dusted with him this year if he doesn't make the 8. And if they do make the 8 and they don't see a massive jump to grand final type appearance the following year, I'd probably say they'd have to let him go as well.
And Brad Arthur's trotted out that dreaded line for a coach saying that he's got 100% support from club officials. So
he said it before they could.
That's always a worry for a coach when you're relying on that line to be trotted out. As you mentioned before, Mitch Moses is some chance of returning for that game against Melbourne next weekend. So, as he recovers from foot surgery, they badly need his return. Parramatta need his return, and I believe New South Wales need his return.
New South Wales needs some kind of halves. Yes. And it's funny on Thursday we talked about how David Fifita definitely wouldn't be going to the Roosters.
Yeah. So that one didn't get published. That podcast. So
and then Friday morning, he announced he's going to the Roosters
against all odds.
Yeah, Dane Gagai did. We talked about Dane Gagai and David Fifita. Gagai ended up staying at Newcastle and not going to the Roosters. So the Roosters needed from next year a forward, a back, and a half because they've lost Luke Cleary, Joey Manu, and Suali'i, and then JWH gone. Their main forward gone. So they've got their forward, $850,000 a year over 3 years. Is it?
4-year deal from 2025 with the Roosters. So exercise that clause in his contract to break his deal with the Titans before round 10. So, you saw 850. Did you? I've seen 820. There's conflicting reports on his salary. It's pretty. There's not much in it.
It's over $800,000.
Yeah. His current deal is worth more than $1 million a season, and I think Gordon Tallis was sort of sceptical about. He's sort of questioning, he's on $1 million a year and we're supposed to believe that he's gone to the Roosters on less money. Gordon Tallis was very I guess he just said he didn't. He doesn't believe it. He thinks there's more to it than that. I mean, how could somebody be taking a pay cut? So, yeah, I mean, we've talked about this club before, and maybe
the
what
Roosters
happens
sombrero.
to go on behind closed doors. Yeah.
But
Anyway.
they do go. Like the Titans, we've talked about the Titans at length. They don't look like they're any chance of doing anything. They are improving now. They've got 2 wins. They're equal with the Tigers, I believe. Yeah, equal with the Tigers. And you'll see a more improvement over the course. They look like a team on the rise, but can Des Hasler get them a premiership or even into the finals in the next 2 years? You don't know. What David Fifita is guaranteed is the Roosters are going to get into the finals for the length of his time. Possibly win a premiership, depending on how it goes. Yeah, I would have... I think they've still paid overs for him, given how he's performed at the Titans, to be honest. Unless he can regain some form. He's really underperformed at the Titans, but then everyone has.
Yeah, I would have thought. Yeah, I tend to agree. I would have thought their money would be better spent elsewhere. Yeah, right, he's a quality player and everything, but that's like 820,000 a year. You know, given what he's dished up at the Titans, that's a lot to pay for. Man, we got to remember this is a club that's. You know, since that last premiership they won back in 2019, this is a club that's making a habit of underachieving and not getting the best out of their players. So, personally, if you want my gut feel, I feel like it. I could see it sort of not working out so well. I could see him going there and just not fulfilling his potential like he hasn't at the Titans.
So they're going to have, the Roosters have Spencer Lanier, Lindsay Collins, quite a few, high quality players in their forward pack. Chucking David Fifita into it, he doesn't need to perform as well as, with the guys around him. He doesn't need to be the best forward. He still needs to be a high quality forward for that pay packet, but in the end, he's joining a pretty powerful forward pack. It's replacing JWH, and then you've got Lindsay Collins, Crichton, Nat Butcher, Radley, Leniu, Terrell May. He's going to jump into and that might disguise the fact that he still might underperform for that price tag.
Yeah, and Scott Sattler, who was the Titans football manager for 2 years, he told the Courier Mail he thinks there'll be some Titans fans who boo Fifita in the coming weeks. So
yeah, probably.
So that's going to be an interesting sort of side note to keep an eye on, I would have thought, with this one.
And it won't be because of racism.
No, it will not be. It will be because he's signed with a rival.
Speaking of other journalists, Peter Fitzsimons and Andrew Webster are into it, aren't they? Yes. Don't they work at the same place?
Yes, at the Herald, and so... And that's what Peter Fitzsimons didn't like. He didn't like his colleague, Andrew Webster, having a go at him in a column. And this is what Fitzsimons wrote in his column. He says, "In my 38 years at this beloved paper, I don't recall such criticism from one colleague on another being published, only occasionally clashing columns where we have had divergent views on ideas," wrote Fitzsimons. Gee, I really think that somebody who... in every column really dishes it out to everybody else in the world. I would have thought it's a bit rich for them to be complaining about someone else writing a column about them. If it's the old line, if you dish it out, you got to take it.
Yeah, 100%.
This is a guy who can dish it out but cannot take it, Peter Fitzsimons.
Yeah, every time. He's...
How could somebody who makes a living out of dishing it out, dishing out... insults at people, dishing out garbage on other people, makes a living out of that. How could somebody like that be so thin-skinned when somebody dares to put the heat on them over an opinion that they've made?
Yeah.
You can't have it both ways. If you're going to put your opinion out there, if you're going to lay it on the line, well, you're going to get hit back.
Exactly.
And you've got to accept that that's all part of the game here.
It's a bit weird that they both work at the same place. Why is the newspaper allowing them to hit.
But
each other.
maybe they get better traffic
Yeah,
numbers when they're having a
that's
go
all
at
it'll
each
be
other.
down to. But you don't whine about it. Like, that's part of being. If you are going to put your opinion out in public, like we do every day, every time we have a podcast, we have to accept that other people have various opinions.
So we accept that. If people give it to us on social media, we'll cop that. Like we're putting strong opinions out there.
Yeah.
And so I accept that. Yeah, there'll be people who have a go at me, and I'm okay with that. That's the game that we're in.
Exactly. And Peter Fitzsimons is just Fitzsimons. I still love the Gavin Robertson. He's a guy who wears a headband and has an intelligent wife. Wears a red bandana and has an intelligent wife. Beautiful.
There were some quotes, interesting quotes from Webster, who really blasted Fitzsimons. I'll just take you through them. He says, when colleague Peter Fitzsimons writes a piece as condescending and personal as the one published online by the Herald on Thursday, well, you've got to fight, he wrote. Fitzsimons took exception to my column on Monday about the debate kicking around in the NRL concerning the kick-off and how it should be banned to avoid concussions. As his longtime colleague, it hurt but didn't surprise. He does these things to most people who offer a contrary or slightly different position to him on concussion. Very fair points made by Andrew Webster here. He has been relentless. He lectures players. Most recently, Roosters captain James Tedesco about retiring. He slammed clubs, coaches and commentators. His constant takedowns of former Bulldogs captain James Graham, who has talked openly about his own concussion issues in a well-meaning podcast with The Australian, have become tedious. It's too much. Rugby league people are growing tired of being positioned as out-of-touch bogans who don't care about their own. I think those are very on-point comments by Andrew Webster in relation to Peter Fitzsimons.
I don't understand why Peter Fitzsimons has such a bugbear under him, like about the being in his bonnet about these concussions and stuff like that. He said his piece. Everybody accepts it. Some people have responded and said, I don't accept it. I accept the fact that you have your opinion.
Well, he needs to write hit job pieces on rugby league and rugby league journalists, because he can't write about his sport, rugby union, because no one cares about it in Australia anymore.
There's 37 people at the game on.
Yeah.
I think the Waratahs played on the weekend or something.
They even got 37. That's more than I would have thought.
That was all their staff.
They count the staff at those games.
They have to.
The bar staff, the crowd officials, and
they didn't have any
marshalling.
The bar staff didn't have anyone to serve alcohol to, so went and stood and watched the game. It's just like you presented your opinion and you can finish it now. You don't need to keep going on about it. And all under the guise of player caring for the players and stuff like that. I think most spokesmen for the players have already responded and said, we don't agree with you. It's time to. I think the fact that James Tedesco continues to play, even though Peter Fitzsimons says you should retire, says to Peter Fitzsimons, you're wrong and James Tedesco doesn't value your opinion. So there's no need to keep pushing it. If people don't value your opinion, don't keep pushing it.
And that's the other thing about Peter Fitzsimons is he always has to hit back. He can never just let it lie. Or if someone has a go at him, he always has to have a go back. He always has to have the last say, He can never just let it go, which is strange, as I said, very strange for someone who makes a living out of doing hit jobs on people. Exactly.
That's it for Rugby League for the week. Mm-hmm. Dragons had an okay win. Bulldogs had a great loss. Sharks established themselves as the top of the ladder.
Yeah.
And they actually finally played someone hard and won without Nico Hines.
Yeah, so well done to the Sharks. Yeah, I thought that the Bulldogs were really good against the Panthers. Unlucky not to get the result, but if there is, I know a win is a win, but if there is such thing as an admirable loss, well, I think that was them against the Panthers.
By the way, they've had a bye, and the Dragons have won more games than the Bulldogs, so the Dragons should be sitting above them.
All right.
Played 1-5. Bulldogs have only won 4. Just letting you know.
Yeah, the Bulldogs, they do, I believe, have a fairly. And I hate saying this because I'll jinx it, but I believe they have a fairly comfortable run with their draw in the upcoming rounds. So
they do.
So I'm hopeful that, and that's the thing, going into that Panthers game, my expectations of victory were obviously very low. So I'm hopeful that now they can go on a bit of a run. Fingers crossed.
Why is there no Thursday game this week?
Because it's Magic Round.
That's right.
And with Magic Round, they didn't want to sort of scatter the games over the 4 days. They want to condense it to make sure the crowd figures are bigger. Because if you have a one-off Thursday game, that's especially one not involving any of the Queensland sides, well, it's going to struggle to attract a crowd. So they're feeling with Magic Round is to, have all the games over less days to get bigger crowds at each day.
Okay, yeah. So Bulldogs will play the Raiders on Friday, and Dragons have finally got their bye. There's a lot going on in tennis because we're about so close to the French Open, and I think that Rafael Nadal should not enter the French Open.
In agreement on that one, 110%. Just a really disappointing defeat to Hubert Hurkacz in the Italian Open. Lost 6-1, 6-3 in his second match there. So that's, you're really looking at that and going, the old Rafael Nadal would never have lost 6-1, 6-3 on clay going into the French Open. So this is not the Rafael Nadal we know and love, very sadly. And unfortunately, it was his first match against a top 10 player since his return from injury, and he was badly outgunned. It also saw Nadal make unwanted history, that loss. The amount of games won his least in 21 years on clay. Only won those 4 games in the match. The equal lowest of his clay career with that of his 2003. We're going back to 2003 here. Defeat to Gaston Gaudio in Hamburg when he was only 16 years old. So, he was devastated after the match. He's saying he now feels it's impossible to play in the French Open.
Yeah.
And I think we all don't want to see him jeopardise that great record, that staggering French Open record that he has. He's the Don Bradman of the French Open. He's won it a staggering 14 times, if you can believe that. He has a 112-3 record there. He's only ever lost 3 matches at the French Open in his career. It's just extraordinary. It's mind-boggling to think that somebody could have a record like that at one of the Grand Slams.
Yeah.
And we do not want to see him jeopardise that by going out and getting knocked out in the early rounds at the French Open.
Don't be a BJ Penn. Don't be a double champion and then go and lose 8 in a row.
In all honesty, I think you've got to know when the curtains come down. And I think the time's come for him to call it a day. It's been a great career, one of the all-time greats of the sport. But, please don't go out there and compete at the French Open when you're not the player you once were. And please leave your legacy intact as it should be left.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, in Rome as well, so Novak Djokovic got hit by a bottle from the stands.
Yes,
did they establish whether it was thrown or dropped?
So initially people thought it was thrown, and there was some real outrage thinking, how could this happen to Novak Djokovic? But it's since come out that it was dropped. It was an accident. Yeah,
that's what it looked like to me. It didn't look like a throw. It looked like it was falling.
It was dropped, but geez, it had an impact on Djokovic.
Well, it looks like a Frank Green bottle, one of those heavy metal,
it looks like a grenade got launched onto him. But as we say, it was dropped, not thrown. But he was concerned by his balance and coordination, Djokovic, after being struck in the head by that water bottle.
Right in the back of the head,
Yeah, and he lost to Chile's Alejandro Tabillo, the 29th seed, 6-2, 6-3. This is Novak Djokovic losing a match like this. So this is the impact that being struck in the head with that water bottle has had on him.
There's a reason why you're not allowed to punch people in the back of the head in boxing and MMA, because it's long-lasting effects. There's actually a famous boxer that was on the rise and was like 12-0 or something like that, and then got illegally punched in the back of the head and knocked unconscious in a boxing match, and his opponent got disqualified, and he's now in a wheelchair and can't move his arms and legs and stuff like that. It's it can have a very devastating effect on you. And it looked like it was dropped, but it looked like one of those Frank Green style heavy metal bloody bottles, and it smashed in the back of the head. He immediately fell to the ground. It's like he's probably concussed.
It had nausea, had dizziness, there was blood.
That's concussion. It's pretty bad.
It's like Novak Djokovic might need a concussion stand down.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty bad. We talk about concussions all the time.
Who would have thought concussion stand down in tennis? Eh?
It looked pretty bad. As I said, it looked like it fell. It didn't look like it was thrown because there's a speed kind of thing. And when I saw that, like, somebody threw a bottle at him, I saw the footage and I thought, well, somebody dropped the bottle on him. Didn't know if it was accidental on purpose, like somebody held it above and dropped it on his head. But cracked him right in the back of the head, knocked him straight to the ground. And then I saw some comments on the internet. People were like, oh, how weak is he to get, like, just to get a bottle in the head? But, man, I'll drop a bottle in the back of your head from that high up and see how you stand up, seriously.
He's not faking the injury.
Yeah.
He's suffered serious injuries as a result of this.
Got concussed from it. It probably wasn't empty. That's the other thing. Like, you're talking about like a 500 gram bottle with a liter of water in it, like a 1.5 kilogram metal thing smashing you in the back of the head dropped from a height. It's quite a height. It's not like 50 meters or something, but it's quite a height. And yeah, it looked bad. Like, I was like, whoa. Jeez.
And who would have thought? So Djokovic, who turns 37 this month, he'll head to the French Open yet to win a title in the season for the first time since 2018 and just the second time since he won his first title in 2006. So who would have thought, hey, going into the French Open with Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal in all sorts of trouble, are we finally seeing a changing of the guard in men's tennis?
Yeah, I wonder. We'll see how Novak Djokovic goes. As I hope Nadal doesn't even bother. He should just retire and then.
Yeah, just really, in all honesty, he should be calling a press conference tomorrow and making the announcement.
Yeah. And then he can just go into exhibitions and charity matches.
Yeah. But please leave your remarkable record of winning the French Open 14 times and only losing there 3 times in your career. Please leave that intact, Rafa. Please don't jeopardise it.
100%. And the Junior Davis Cup is about to have Hewitt has decided to play the Junior Davis Cup. No, not Lleyton Hewitt.
Yeah, it makes us feel very old, doesn't it, John? We're talking about Lleyton Hewitt's son playing in the Davis Cup.
It's good to see another Hewitt in the Davis Cup. But it's the Junior Davis Cup.
Yes.
So he'll be playing... When is that?
Yeah, so Cruz Hewitt is going to play in the... so it's the Asia-Oceania qualifying event in Kazakhstan from May 20 to 25. So he's going to don the green and gold for the first time, Cruz Hewitt. The top 4 nations in the qualifier will advance to November's finals. So... really good news to see, I guess, the son of the legendary Lleyton Hewitt carry the baton for Australia in the Davis Cup. So it's a nice sort of positive story for us to finish on today. Well done to Cruz Hewitt. Of course, he was granted that wild card into the Australian Open Boys Singles Junior Grand Slam earlier this year. So... he becomes So
he becomes the second Hewitt to play for the Davis Cup.
100%. So
it's awesome.
We are we don't want to put a lot of pressure on Cruz, but we are holding out real hope. Especially as it seems Nick Kyrgios seems to have given up the fight completely.
He's got a billboard in Las Vegas or whatever.
Yeah, as well as Alex de Minaur gives it his all, but he's just not going to be the major winner we're looking for. So, without wanting to put too much pressure on, fingers crossed, Cruz Hewitt can be that major winner we're looking for. I mean, his dad was the last Australian male to win a Grand Slam singles title. So he's hoping Cruz can follow in those footsteps. Wouldn't it be something if Cruz was the next Australian male to win a Grand Slam singles title?
That would be amazing.
Yes.
That'd be like footage like Dean Young and Craig Young hugging on the field after the 2010 Grand Final. That's it for news around the world. Cricket World Cup is coming up soon. IPL is almost over. We do have some upcoming podcasts. We're doing something special with Mitchell Pearce after the teams are named. So over the next few weeks, we'll be gathering an Ask Me Anything with Mitchell Pearce. So you'll be able to see if you're only SmartB users, can send questions in for Pearcey around Origin, around his career, anything they want, and we'll do a podcast in which we ask Mitchell Pearce all those questions. Obviously, we'll be screening the questions, even though it's Ask Me Anything. You won't necessarily get an answer. You can ask anything. And And then the week after that, Craig Gow will be in for our Origin preview. Obviously, Origin is on the 2nd of June.
I think it might be the 5th of June.
5th of June, whatever that Wednesday is. Where's my calendar? 5th of June. 5th of June. So we'll have him in on the Monday, 3rd of June to go over what he thinks will happen for the Origin, where we'll know the teams of both Queensland and New South Wales. Make sure you sign up to SmartB to get the daily best bet. I got an email today that one of the multis came off at $519.
Oh, wow. Wish I'd had something on that one.
I need to get on these. And the tip of the day, as well as getting your notifications for the sports you love straight to your inbox. And make sure you tune in for the SmartB Racing Update every Friday. Follow SmartB app at SmartB app on all social medias. And we'll see. We're only doing one podcast for the next few weeks per week. So I'll see you next Monday.
See you then, mate.
Brilliant. All right. See you, everybody. Bye, Producer John. Bye.